continuation from what we discussed yesterday, TMZ reported that a grand jury had been impaneled to hear evidence in connection with the death of 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez, whose body was found in a Tesla registered to the romantic homicide singer David back in September in LA. Specifically, TMZ reported that president of David's touring company and head of YWL was questioned by a deputy district attorney in front of the grand jury. YWL was allegedly overheard telling his lawyer that the DA who was questioning him was very pushy on why I didn't call police, and he replied, "I feel like I didn't have the responsibility to do that and just wanted to continue with the tour." This raises questions about potential knowledge of a crime and the role David may have played, given that he was on tour when Celeste's body was found. Now, TMZ is reporting that there may be problems in the grand jury proceeding because a witness is refusing to cooperate. OS, a deputy Los Angeles district attorney, allegedly told attorney AS, who represents YWL, that she plans to petition the judge to issue a body attachment to compel an unidentified female witness to testify before the grand jury. This legal mechanism would allow the witness to be taken into custody and brought into the hearing. TMZ does not know the identity of this witness, but it is suggested she may be connected to David's inner circle. Additionally, TMZ has looked into YWL's role as David's manager, noting that he and another manager, WS, may have connections to the property in the Hollywood Hills where the Tesla was found. David reportedly broke the lease and moved items out, and authorities searched the property. As of now, there have been no arrests or charges, and David has not been officially implicated, though LAPD has acknowledged a potential connection to the investigation. It is unclear if the grand jury is investigative, meaning it gathers evidence and recommends charges, or if it can formally indict. The LAPD has also petitioned the court to seal the medical examiner's records, including the cause and manner of death, to ensure investigators have access before the media. Mark Weaver, former Deputy Attorney General, noted that witnesses in grand jury proceedings are not bound by secrecy rules in the same way as jurors, prosecutors, and judges. Witnesses can disclose their testimony publicly, though it is discouraged. A body attachment is a serious legal tool used when a witness refuses to comply with a subpoena. This would not be used for a simple mistake like forgetting an appointment. It is reserved for recalcitrant witnesses who refuse to show up or avoid service. There are several reasons why a witness might refuse to testify: fear, notoriety, not wanting to implicate someone close, or privacy concerns. The DA can implement measures to protect the witness during grand jury proceedings, such as keeping their information confidential under criminal rules, though their identity may eventually be revealed if called at trial due to the Confrontation Clause of the Constitution. Testimony typically locks witnesses into their statements for trial. While not all grand jury witnesses are required to testify at trial, prosecutors often want them to, as it allows them to impeach inconsistent statements later. Regarding YWL, the DA likely questioned him about David's whereabouts around the time of Celeste's death and why police were not contacted. Roth's income and connection to YWL may impact his willingness to testify. YWL in busy cities like LA do not convene full-time. Jurors have other cases to consider. Typically, a simple majority vote is enough to return an indictment. There are no statute of limitations concerns for murder, but prosecutors must balance speed with proper procedure to prevent errors, as seen in high-profile cases like the Alec Baldwin prosecution. Sealing the medical examiner's records is not unusual when pre-trial publicity might affect jury pools or when privacy concerns arise. With all these developments, questions are mounting about the grand jury process and potential obstacles in the investigation. One big concern is the unidentified female witness who has refused to testify. If she's part of David's inner circle, her reluctance could complicate the case significantly. A witness refusing to testify in such a high-profile case could stem from fear, loyalty, or simply not wanting to be in the public eye. But legally, the court has tools to compel testimony, like the body attachment discussed earlier. Meanwhile, authorities are also closely examining David's managers, their proximity to David and knowledge of his schedule, as well as the Hollywood Hills property where the Tesla was found, could be pivotal in establishing a timeline or connection to the crime scene. TMZ and other outlets have dug into their roles, though much remains unconfirmed publicly. Another critical aspect is the sealing of the medical examiner's records. While controversial in some circles, prosecutors and investigators argue that it is necessary to protect the integrity of the investigation and ensure detectives gather evidence before the media can report it. This step highlights just how sensitive and complex this case has become. Legal experts emphasize the difficulty of prosecuting a case like this. With a decomposing body, degraded evidence, and limited eyewitness accounts, the prosecution faces a steep challenge from the start. High-profile defendants with significant resources can also exert pressure through legal maneuvers, potentially slowing the process or complicating the collection of crucial evidence. The role of the grand jury is central here. Whether it's investigative or poised to return indictments, the jury is gathering critical evidence that may shape the case for months to come. Investigative grand juries are especially valuable when details are murky, as they allow prosecutors to subpoena witnesses, review documents, and build a timeline without immediately charging a suspect. Finally, the question on everyone's mind: what happens next? Will the recalcitrant witness be compelled to testify? Will David or anyone connected to him face charges? While nothing is confirmed, authorities appear determined to move forward cautiously but thoroughly. Each step, from grand jury hearings to examining property connections and sealed medical records, adds layers to the investigation, slowly piecing together the circumstances surrounding Celeste Hernandez's tragic death. This case remains highly dynamic, and updates are expected as the investigation progresses. Law enforcement, prosecutors, and legal experts will continue to monitor every development closely, balancing public interest with legal procedure and witness protection. As this investigation unfolds, one thing is clear: there are still more questions than answers. Why did this witness refuse to appear? What exactly do David's managers know? And could the grand jury uncover new evidence that changes the entire trajectory of the case? One detail that can't be ignored is timing. From when Celeste's body was discovered in the Tesla to now, weeks have passed. That gap in time makes evidence collection more difficult and adds urgency for investigators to act before memories fade or potential witnesses become unreachable. It also raises concerns about how much David knew and whether there were missed opportunities to alert authorities or preserve key evidence. Meanwhile, public interest is intense. Social media is flooded with speculation, theories, and rumors. That pressure, however, doesn't change the fact that the legal system has to follow strict procedures. The grand jury, whether investigative or indicting, is operating behind closed doors for a reason: to prevent leaks, protect witnesses, and ensure a fair process. The deputy is navigating a delicate balance. She must compel witnesses to testify while protecting their identities, especially in a case with potential celebrity involvement. She's reportedly ready to request a body attachment for the uncooperative witness, an extreme but legally sanctioned measure to secure testimony that could be critical to the investigation. And then there's David's role, or lack thereof, publicly. He has not been officially charged or implicated, yet his movements, his tours, and his manager's testimonies are under scrutiny. That's the tricky part of high-profile cases. Suspicion and investigation can dominate headlines even when formal charges haven't been filed. The grand jury may provide clarity on whether charges are warranted or if it's still too early to make that call. Another angle to watch: the property search in the Hollywood Hills. That Tesla, the lease, and what was inside the property could hold physical evidence that links David or his associates to the timeline of events. Investigators are piecing together the who, what, when, and where in painstaking detail. Every camera, every lease record, every statement could matter. Finally, experts caution that cases like this move slowly. It's easy for the public to demand immediate answers, but investigators must methodically verify facts, follow leads, and ensure they build a case that can withstand scrutiny in court. One misstep, like a witness disappearing or testimony being compromised, could set back the entire process. In short, this case is far from over. With a grand jury in play, potential witnesses being compelled, managers under questioning, and evidence still being examined, there's a lot we still don't know. But one thing is clear: authorities are taking every legal step to ensure that justice is pursued carefully and thoroughly. Stay tuned, because the next update could be a game changer. From uncooperative witnesses to sealed medical records, each new piece of information brings us closer to understanding what really happened to Celeste Hernandez and whether anyone will ultimately be held accountable. At the heart of this investigation is the question of accountability. While no charges have been filed, the involvement of David's management team, the refusal of a witness to testify, and the steps the court is taking to compel testimony all point to the seriousness of the case. The fact that a body attachment may be issued shows the DA is determined to get to the bottom of this, no matter how high profile or complicated the situation becomes. The community is watching closely. For those who knew Celeste Hernandez, the questions are deeply personal. How could this have happened? Who had knowledge? And most importantly, why didn't anyone step in sooner? These are questions that may finally be addressed if the grand jury uncovers new evidence or testimony. Legal experts are emphasizing that the sealed medical examiner records, while frustrating to the public, are standard in high-profile investigations. Investigators need to control the flow of sensitive information to prevent interference with witness testimony or evidence gathering. Every detail, down to who had access to the Tesla, when the lease was signed, and the timeline of David's movements, could be crucial. Meanwhile, speculation continues online. Social media theories, leaked reports, and insider commentary are rampant, but as authorities remind everyone, speculation isn't evidence. The grand jury and investigators must follow the law, not the headlines. For now, the case remains active but unresolved. Investigators are continuing to gather evidence, interview witnesses, and scrutinize the roles of anyone connected to David's tours and personal life. Every detail is being examined, from financial records to travel itineraries, to determine whether any laws were broken and who may be responsible. In the coming days and weeks, keep an eye on updates regarding this mysterious and tragic case, whether it's a witness finally testifying, a new piece of evidence being revealed, or the grand jury moving toward recommendations. Each development could bring us closer to understanding the truth behind Celeste Hernandez's death, and whether anyone will ultimately be held accountable. The path to justice is rarely quick, especially in cases involving complex relationships, celebrity involvement, and uncooperative witnesses. But authorities are pushing forward, and every step taken in the legal process brings us closer to clarity. Stay alert for the next update because in a case like this, every new detail matters, and the story is far from over. Now let's talk about David's movements around the time of Celeste Hernandez's death. Reports indicate that David was on tour when Celeste's body was discovered in the Tesla. This creates a complex timeline that investigators are trying to piece together. Who was with him at any given moment? Who had access to his property? And who knew what and when? The involvement of his managers adds another layer. Robert Morgan-Roth, head of Mogul Vision and Zara Brothers Travel, has already been questioned by the DA in front of the grand jury. Allegedly, the questioning focused on why police weren't contacted immediately and what knowledge he may have had about the circumstances surrounding Celeste's death. According to sources, Roth expressed that he did not feel responsible to call authorities and wanted to continue with the tour. That response alone raises serious concerns for investigators. David also reportedly had another manager, Josh Marshall, who had signed the lease on the Hollywood Hills property where David was staying. That property was searched by authorities after the Tesla was found. Any connection between the managers, David's whereabouts, and the circumstances of Celeste's death is under intense scrutiny. The grand jury process itself is adding complications. Witnesses are being called, and at least one has allegedly refused to testify, prompting the DA to consider a body attachment. This legal tool compels a witness to appear in court under threat of detention, highlighting how critical this testimony is to the investigation. For prosecutors, every witness matters, especially in cases where evidence may be time-sensitive or degrading. Investigators are also trying to determine if there was any negligence or knowledge of wrongdoing that could implicate others connected to David. From tour staff to property managers, anyone in proximity to him during this time is being examined. Even small details like travel logs, phone records, or rental agreements could become crucial evidence. While authorities continue their investigation, the public and media are intensely focused on every development. TMZ reports and insider leaks suggest a highly tense environment, with lawyers, managers, and potentially reluctant witnesses all under pressure. But one thing is clear: no arrests have been made, and David has not been officially charged with any crime. The timeline is still being reconstructed. Investigators need to determine exactly when Celeste was placed in the Tesla, who had access, and whether any steps could have been taken to prevent her death. Every moment counts in building a potential case, and grand jury testimony could be the key to unlocking answers. This case highlights how complex investigations become when high-profile individuals are involved. Money, fame, and public attention can complicate legal proceedings, but the law applies to everyone. That's why the grand jury's work is critical. They will review evidence, hear from witnesses, and potentially recommend charges if they believe there is enough proof of wrongdoing. As this investigation continues, we will keep tracking updates. From witness cooperation to manager statements to court proceedings, each development brings us closer to understanding the full story behind this tragic case.